Welcome back to the channel. Uncle Benji here. We got a cool video here for you today, the oral history of my collection, and it's a spotlight on one album from one of my favorite artists and one of my favorite albums from the 90s. You can see right here that we're talking about Kool G Rap and the album 456. And I wanted to talk about Kool G and this album in particular after I saw a little discourse on Twitter in the last week or so. I think, and it wasn't even an account I really follow, but it showed up on my timeline, and it was asking who's better between Black Thought and Kool G Rap. And there was a lot of people in the comments. I don't even think they're necessarily hating, but didn't know who Kool G Rap was. They were saying Black Thought easy, you know, and it was something that just kind of tweaked me a little bit, because we don't do a great job in hip-hop of honoring our history and having structures in place so that younger listeners kind of know who these really important people were and why it was so important and why their music is still aged really well. People just don't know about it and don't give it a chance. But I'm going to give you a little history first about how I got into Kool G Rap and this album, because while he had several albums before this that are all great and classics, most with DJ Polo, and then some great albums after this as well, I have no issue with people who prefer other Kool G Rap albums, but this is the first one I listened to, and it is still my favorite to this day. And I got into this album sometime between 99 and 2000. So it wasn't something I was into right when it dropped, which was like in 1995. But I did hear Kool G Rap and really get into him. I might have heard some old school songs in the past and didn't really know who he was, but I really got into him when I heard this Mobb Deep album, Murda Music. And he has a song on here, The Realist, with Mobb Deep, where he has a verse on there, the same beat that now Alchemist has repurposed for a song with Erykah Badu, and it was just a classic. I mean, my favorite song on this album, Kool G's verse, was incredible. Instantly made me a big fan just off one verse, and I was like, man, I got to dig a little bit more and get into Kool G Rap. And you quickly find out, I mean, this guy influenced everybody in that mid-90s era. I mean, you can see on the album cover here, you have Nas right here on the album cover. Nas also has a feature on here that I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, like he was a huge influence on Nas and Jay-Z and a lot of the rappers that came up in the mid-90s. And then this comes out in 95 after Nas has already put out Illmatic. And it's very much in that same kind of vein of like a shorter 10 to 12 track classic hip-hop album. It's got some really funky, jazzy, psychedelic production on here. I'll talk a little bit about that too as we go on. I first got this album, as most things, as you all know, in the 90s that I've talked about, on CD. This is the original 456 CD that I got. Really cool red G on the artwork there. The booklet I really enjoy. It has all the songs and stuff, but this feature right here, the 456, I had this up on my college dorm wall when I lived in Philadelphia. And I have some pictures I've posted on Twitter where you can see this album cover up there, I think, along with the Alcoholics album cover on there, some other albums I was really into at the time that I put up on my wall. And, you know, it was just a really cool piece to show off. And the 456, like, I didn't know really what that meant at first when I heard the title, and then listened to it and quickly found out it's about a dice game called CeeLo. And it was kind of crazy once I learned the details of it, because me and my friends in high school, we'd played another dice game, I think it was called Ship Captain Crew, and it involved trying to get 456. So I think they're very similar games, but we looked up CeeLo, me and my friends too, and you know, we were into dice games at that time, craps and stuff, so we started playing some CeeLo and hearing that song, and you know, hearing Kool G's the way he references playing the game and how it went, like, really made it a cool thing to incorporate for me at that time when I was, you know, 19, 20 years old. But to talk a little bit more also about that Black Thought comparison with Kool G Rap, why I thought it was kind of cool that they put those two up, because Kool G was another person who was a huge influence on Black Thought. And Black Thought has talked a lot about this, and later in his career, in the later 90s, Black Thought put out an album with The Roots, Phrenology. I don't even have the case, but I have the CD here from Phrenology back in the day. And he had a song on here, Thought It Work, which was really a tribute to G Rap, because G Rap on this album back here, he has a song called Men at Work, which is an absolute classic song. When I went back and listened to G Rap's whole catalog, that song immediately stood out, and it was Black Thought's favorite. And he made that song as a tribute to it. But there's also live video on YouTube of Black Thought performing Kool G Rap's Men at Work song in full live. So that's how big of a Kool G Rap fan that Black Thought is. So yeah, I mean, if you want to put Black Thought ahead of Kool G Rap, that's cool with me, but know the history of it. Know that, you know, Black Thought may not put himself ahead of Kool G Rap himself. I mean, it's probably his favorite rapper. So there's a lot of history there to know that stuff. As we get a little more into this album to talk about some of the songs on here, 456 is really the first song after the intro. But then we have It's a Shame, which is, when I heard it, one of the best rap performances I'd ever heard in my life, and it still stands the test as one of the absolute best rap performances I've ever heard on a song. It's an incredible song. They have a remix on here later. When you talk about flow, like, this is the song when I think of when someone mentions the word flow. That is what Kool G Rap has in spades. And this song is just painting pictures with his words, and the way that it stacks up and he can rhyme is like, it's a technical wizardry. Like, so many people would love to be able to rhyme like Kool G Rap, but they just can't do it. Like, I would just play that song, It's a Shame, over and over and over again. But then we go right into the next song. We got Take 'Em to War, and the crazy thing about this song is it has a feature from MF Grimm on there and B1. And hearing this song in 99 or 2000 when I heard it was before I'd ever gotten into MF Doom. I didn't get into MF Doom until early 2001 when I bought Doomsday. So I heard MF Grimm first, and he kills his verse on here. I mean, I always still repeat the line, unorthodox, I hold my pistol sideways, that Grimm has on here. And B1 was a protege of his. And this was before Grimm had gone through this incident of getting shot, being paralyzed, going to jail. So this was when Grimm was a hot up-and-coming street MC in New York. And Kool G getting him on here and bringing B1 along, who is his protege, was really cool. And it's an incredible song on here. And then he has a later appearance on here as well. MF Grimm and B1 have a second song on here. Another song on here that really shows like the versatility of Kool G Rap is For the Brothers. It's such a beautiful song. It's a tribute to fallen friends that he's had. And it really kind of shows you he can be super street and aggressive and drug raps throughout this album. But you got the sentimentality of, you know, these people that meant so much for him, that he's, you know, tapping the bottle to pour out for his friends. And I have vivid memories of listening to this song at different points in my life when I was younger, where I can put myself in that vehicle I was in that street I was in, while I was listening to that song, because it had such an impact on me. Back in the day, I don't think I would have called it my favorite because I was young. I wanted the hard stuff, but over time, the way it's passed, I think this is my favorite song on the album. It's just endlessly listenable. It really gets my emotions every time I listen to it. And what's really puts all together what makes G Rap the great that he is. He's not just a technician. He has a lot of heart in his rhymes. He has a lot to say. He has a lot he's experienced to share. You got Blowing Up in the World, which is produced by the great Buck Wild, who I've talked about in my OC video. Buck Wild produces this and the song after it, Fast Life with Nas, so it's really cool to have those couple Buck Wild beats on here. But Blowing Up on the World is definitely one of the best songs on here. Just a true standout song with a great beat where G Rap goes through really the history of his career and how he got to where he's at, trials and tribulations, and now he's blowing up in the world. And it's a real aspirational song, really fun song to listen to. As I said, the next song, Fast Life, has the Nas feature on there. You got Nas on the cover, the cosign. When I first bought the album, I saw that Nas feature and I thought it was going to be my favorite. It's probably not my favorite song on here. It's probably not my top few either, but it's still a really great song, and it's awesome to have that Nas feature in this era right after Illmatic. There's other beats on here from Dr. Butcher, T-Ray, Naughty Shorts, some producers that aren't as well known. They have some really great beats on here that are psychedelic and sample a lot of like 70s jazz fusion. And if you listen to that kind of music, you're gonna recognize some of the samples and beats on here. There's some that are really stick out obvious, but if you listen to a lot of this stuff, there's more. There's multiple songs that I have recognized as samples from getting into jazz fusion. So yeah, just if you're into jazz fusion, listen to it for the production. I'm sure you'll hear some things that you recognize. Towards the end, like I mentioned earlier, we got the It's a Shame remix on here. Well, I can't say I like it as much as the original because it's so perfect. It really is about as good as a remix can get. Like when a song is so good and you love the original beat, and then you have the remix and you're like, man, like, I don't know, it's close. Like that's how good this remix is. And it's a testament to how good the song is and the flow is. But the Dr. Butcher remix is a really welcome addition. And then they end the album with Money on My Brain, which is the most fun song on here. An incredible verse by MF Grimm on the song. B1, his protege, on there again. But really ends the album on a high note. And like I said, if you include the intro, it's just 11 songs, it's 10 songs. So it's very much in that vein of Illmatic, where we're just making all killer, no filler. That's what this album is, and that's why it's endlessly listenable. You can keep coming back to it. There's no weak points. All the features hit their marks, and it's very insular. You know, he doesn't have top flight producers of the time. MF Grimm, while he's a killer MC, and B1 on there, they weren't really all that well known, even though they were respected as street artists around that time. I'll show you a little bit more artwork. The inside jackets, they did a really good job on these. You got some shout outs on the back, you know, Kool G showing off his North Face. Another really cool picture of Kool G Rap here. Song titles on the back here. This edition of the vinyl, you got a green vinyl that it came on this reissue that I bought within the last 5 or 10 years. So this is a really cool edition of the vinyl. But I love this album so much, and if you're not tapped into Kool G Rap, this is the place to start, because the older albums aren't even on streaming. You got to dig them up, and while I love all of them, I have all those older albums on vinyl and CD as well. This is the entry point, I would say. And there's albums after this, especially Roots of Evil, that came a few years after this. It's maybe the best rapping performance that he's ever had. But as one album to listen to for Kool G Rap, especially if you're new to get into him, 456 is the one. So that's the video for today, y'all. Kool G Rap, 456. If you're not familiar, get hip. Young hip-hop heads need to know who Kool G Rap is. They need to explore his discography. At the very least, listen to this album. Listen to MF Grimm in his true heyday. There's so much greatness on this album, and I hope you give it a chance if you haven't, or if you've already listened to it or a fan, pull it back out, find a way to get it on vinyl, because it's a true classic. That's it for today, y'all. Uncle Benji, peace out till next time.